Frankie!
Hey, yo, Frankie. Why don't you come on down to Dallas?
Frankie smokes, baby.
Luka Doncic, and this is Locked On Mavericks podcast.
Hey, Dallas Mavericks are NBA champions. Bang! Bang! It's good! And the Mavericks have won the game!
If you don't believe, you shouldn't be here.
And welcome. You are locked on to the Dallas Mavericks. My name is Nick Angstadt, media member and coordinator for the Locked On Podcast Network. And joining me, as always, my co-host, writer at Mavs.com, the smoking sultan, the one more thing king. What you got for me, Isaac Harris?
Frank Ntilikina.
Let's go.
So yeah, we had this pod planned, and I did some pod prep, a little earlier today, and then literally, like, I don't know, what, an hour ago before we hit record, we're recording this around 11 o'clock Central Time. Mark Stein with a little sneaky little, like, hey, let's just throw a new Maverick in there.
It marks the first time I was happy that you said that you sent me a text and said your kids were keeping you up a little bit, so the pod will have to wait until later. I was happy that actually pushed us back. So thanks to Isaac's kids.
Yeah, just sometimes going to bed is not the easiest for toddlers. So
Locked On NBA, it's small market meets big market. Wednesdays, Locked On NBA. You can listen to Jake Madison. And then today, I think it's actually Mike Richmond from Locked On Blazers for a look at the NBA week from all angles. Follow Locked On NBA podcast today on YouTube or wherever you get your podcasts. On today's show, we are going to get into the Frank Ntilikina signing, quote unquote. It's rumored signing, reported signing of Frank Ntilikina. So we'll talk about him. And then we want to get into a what if. What if the Mavericks win the title in 2021-22?
Because of Ntilikina.
Because of it, inspired by him. But what if it happens? What would have to happen for the Mavericks? There's obviously some hoops that would have to happen. There would be maybe some injuries that would have to happen from other teams possibly, but there have to be some players that step up into their roles, and Jason Kidd would have to step into his role. There's a lot of stuff, but we'll get into all that and talk about it. We'll get into that. But before we do, so Mark Stein reported the Mavericks have emerged as a likely destination for former Knicks guard Frank Ntilikina, league sources say. Dallas is expected to sign Ntilikina in the coming days, league sources say. After the Mavericks were widely expected to draft him in 2017, Ntilikina went number 8 overall to the Knicks. Dallas selected Dennis Smith Jr. at 9. I had lots of fun with this. I tweeted a whole bunch of things after it came out, but one of them really, I was really thinking about it for a while. What if I told you in June 2017, so that draft, that Frank Ntilikina would be on the Mavs and Dennis Smith Jr. wouldn't? And then, or what if I told you in January 2019, when the Porzingis trade happened, that neither Frank or Dennis Smith Jr. would be on the Knicks in 2 years?
I think I would have believed the second one first. If you told me right after the draft, like that, Frank's in New York, Dennis is in Dallas, that you would say that Frank would be in Dallas and Dennis would be in Portland.
Hey, in 4 years, this is going to be flipped, and Dennis was in New York, and now he's not. He's in Portland. Yeah, and Frank is in Dallas. Weird stuff.
So weird. And so you go back to that draft, that I think sometimes it gets a little confusing of the smoke screen and all of that about Frank and, their interest in Frank. And, some people really put it out there like, Dallas, were they ever really interested? They were trying to get New York to take him. They were interested in him at the time. So I feel like that's been kind of like confused some of like, Dallas got them. They were never interested in Frank. That really wasn't true. They were interested in Frank back then. So it's wild to see how fast you can really pull up the top 10 of that draft class. Look at how many of those guys are borderline out of the league right now.
For Frank Ntilikina, was it this moment that made him become a Mav right after Slovenia loses to France? The Olympic,
he just said, "Hey, I'll see you in
the Olympic run." Frank Ntilikina comes up to Luka Doncic as his head is in his hands, and he's upset after the loss. And Ntilikina comes up to him. hopefully comfort him. Maybe he just was like Hail Hydra or like said something like cheeky to him. But yeah, was this the moment where showing the picture on YouTube when Frank Ntilikina came up to Luka that he said, "Hey, just bring me to Dallas." People are also sharing that video of the last time that the Mavs and Knicks played in MSG, and Luka goes up and hugs Frank Ntilikina, and then Porzingis comes up and hugs Ntilikina, and then they both look at each other, both with masks, and they both kind of do like eyes at each other and kind of do a nod, like, oh, like that kind of deal. And people were like, oh, that's the moment when it was going to happen. The Mavs would get Ntilikina. It's fun stuff. But what does Ntilikina actually bring? And actually, let's go to the roster first, because this is kind of a big deal. The Mavericks already had 20 players for their training camp roster. They had the full composite of players, the players we've all talked about with Tyrell Terry and Josh Green at the end of the bench, and then the 3 training camp deals in EJ Onu, Carlik Jones, and then Ferron Hunt. Those guys had already been signed. So I'm seeing some people, and even I thought for a second, oh, this will be a training camp deal for Frank Ntilikina, but that means they'd have to get rid of one of those 3 guys, and that would look really weird if you just signed those guys, and now you're going to go sign Frank Ntilikina, who was a free agent when you made these training camp deals back then, right? Like a couple weeks ago. So it's got to be one of the guys on the roster, I think.
Yeah, as soon as I saw the Stein tweet outside of Ntilikina, I'm like, oh, cool, Flyer, we'll talk about him as player. But I initially just went to, oh, well, a roster move has to come because, they're at the full 20. You made the good point there of, Frank's been a free agent for a bit. So, like, there's nothing new that's happened with Frank. Frank didn't, drop a Ben Simmons mixtape online that really made teams like, oh, we got to go get him like right now. And so it's like, it'd be kind of confusing if they just dropped one of the training camp guys for him.
Like, sorry, Carlik Jones, you did
yeah.
fine for us in summer league.
Which I would understand it. It's like, okay, that makes sense. I personally think it's a Trey Burke move. I think we'll see something with Trey Burke, in the next few days, unless there's something bigger, right? I mean, there could be something.
Could be a trade.
There could be a bigger trade happening, a 2-for-1, where Mavs send 2 people out for 1 and open up a roster spot. So either way, if they're signing Frank Ntilikina, it's probably for a cheap deal, and sign me up. Like,
yeah,
I love it relative, right? Like, I love it in the sense of, I don't think Frank is going to step in and, play this big role, but this is the type of swing I want to make. Like a top 10 pick a handful of years ago that is still 23, has a 6'10", wingspan that, yeah, he has shot 32% from 3 in his career, but let's take a swing at him. I'm all down for this.
That played for a team for a couple years there that struggled to develop young talent, right? Like, we've seen guys go through the Knicks organization and just not get developed. Now, you could say the same thing for the Mavs, but maybe a change of scenery would just be great for him. And this,
know what he is now?
Coaching. What?
He's the new DeLon Wright, Josh Richardson. That's exactly what he is.
We've been tracking, for those that missed that, we've been tracking, the Mavericks have been trying to get this, combo guard kind of, defensive guard next to Luka. And so they went with, I guess the first year was maybe Wes Matthews. And then the next year they go with DeLon Wright. And then they're like, okay, well, that didn't work. Now we're going to go with Josh Richardson the next season to try and go and upgrade there. And now they've maybe gone back down with Frank Ntilikina. But what does Frank Ntilikina actually bring to this team? What are we expecting? If he actually makes the roster, what does he bring? For me, the first thing I thought of was, okay, like you said, this is a flyer. This is a low risk. You're not going to have to sign him to a big deal. And he's a good defensive player. Someone asked me if he's a secondary creator. No, not even close. Like, that's not even part of his game. He's going to get some assists. He'll make some good passes. He'll make some good decisions. He has been working on his 3-point shot. That was kind of the big deal for him coming out in the draft. Can he get better?
Instagram.
Can he get better at shooting the 3-point shot? If he improves in that area, then he can be a really pretty viable 3-and-D player, because he is a really good defensive player. And so, that's going to be his role. And also, now all of a sudden you have Ntilikina, who's 23. You have, Moses Brown and Josh, Moses Brown and Josh Green that are all of a sudden going to be 21 soon. And Moses Brown may be 22 soon. And then Tyrell Terry, who's 20. So now all of a sudden you have this young core of guys at the end of this bench. And if one of those guys becomes a solid rotation player for the Mavericks this year, that's a pretty big win.
Yeah, and it's like, once again, let's do the whole thing again. Who's been the best point guard that he's played with, in New York in his short career? And I'm not saying that is the end all tell all of why he hasn't, been this massive player as a top 10 pick, but let's see him alongside Luka. I think a lot of people, any player, any top 10 pick that it's like, hey, let's just see what he looks like next to Luka.
Will we see him next to Luka though?
Probably not, but you know what? Let's have fun with it. And but defense, hey, guess who's younger? Frank Ntilikina, Jalen Brunson.
Ntilikina's younger.
He is. Yeah.
Yeah, I had to look that up because you could put Luka in that young core, by the way, too. He's young. He's just as young as all those guys in Ntilikina. But all those four guys I mentioned are also younger than both of the Mavs two-way guys, which is kind of funny. So they have this young core at the end of the bench. It'd be interesting to see. What if,
but could he play the DeLon Wright role though? Like could you see like Brunson is coming in, Frank Ntilikina, like he is kind of like a different type of guard, than Brunson that can come off the bench and say, hey, play the DeLon Wright role off the bench, whatever that is. And
he's the defensive guard that can come in, give you a different look. And I think those four guys can play some fun garbage minutes together. Tyrell Terry, Frank Ntilikina, Josh Green, Moses Brown, throw one more guy in there to play the four, the three or whatever. That's a pretty interesting, like young Sterling Brown, I guess you can throw him in there.
Just don't have expectations. That's the thing. It's like,
he's not going to start, right? Like he's not going to come in and start. He's not going to.
If he's starting, then we need to be on Draft Express. And so, no.
And sometimes this stuff takes time. So these young guys, we're excited about them. We want to see them play, but it may take time for them to come along. So,
but could he have his best season in his career in Dallas? Sure. Like I could see that 100%. Yeah.
That'd be great. All right. Coming up, let's get into a big what if for the Dallas Mavericks. What if they won the title this year? We'll get into that coming up. But before we do, tell me if you've heard this before.
Well,
I got to find my sports somewhere. I'm looking around everywhere. I can't find it. Okay. I have to find my favorite shows, watching sports highlights. And then you've also got your neighbor's best friend Wi-Fi signal, or you got your favorite, their login for like something else. All of a sudden you have all this stuff in all these places, all your streaming services, all your, your shows you want to watch. You need to find a way to simplify and to put it all in one place to finally get your TV together. It's called DirecTV Stream. It brings your live TV and on-demand favorites together like never before, so you can watch your favorite sports, movies, and shows all in one place. So get rid of the clutter and the confusion. Get your TV together with DirecTV Stream. Go to DirecTV.com and you can check out DirecTV Stream. There are no contracts. Gotta love that. Gotta love that. You're not held to anything. Compatible with device required. Content varies by package. DirecTV.com. DirecTV Stream. All right, Isaac Harris. Let's get into the Dallas Mavericks. What if 2021-22 NBA title? What if the Mavericks bring it back?
I took this whole what if a whole different direction than you did, though. Because
what did you? I love that we didn't talk about this before.
You teased it at the top. We're like, what would have to happen for them to win the title? I took it as, what if they win the title? Like, what's it like mean moving forward?
Perfect. Let's start with my angle of it, and let's start with what would have to happen for the Mavericks to win the title, and then next segment we'll go to yours. I think that's a great way to just to figure it out. So you start looking up and down the standings. The Mavericks would probably, I think, would have to be a top 4 seed, probably.
Yeah.
Because they'd have to be that good of a team to win the title. I think. I don't think I don't think this is a team. If they're a 6th, 7th, 8th seed, then all of a sudden they're rising up in the playoffs and winning. Like that just shows that they weren't that successful in the regular season. Maybe it was injuries. Maybe Luka missed some games here and there. But I think this team would have to prove some viability a little bit in the regular season. So I think they'd have to be a top 4 seed probably in the West.
Yeah, I agree. And it's like, all right, well, how do you get there if you're a top 4 seed in the West? And you probably need some injury luck with some teams, and then we've went through
to get a top 4 seed. I think the Mavericks, if the Mavericks stay healthy and the rest of the teams stay kind of the way that they are, I think some other teams are going to struggle. Some teams like, what if the Lakers just don't take the regular season that seriously with those 3 guys that have dealt with injuries? Like, what if you think they're?
But if we're assuming full health though, like.
I just
because I just said I think they'll need some injury like luck help in the sense of like Clay coming and taking longer, or LeBron or AD, Russ, like some of those guys like going down for a little bit, Chris Paul going down a little bit, like Kawhi, Jamal Murray, they're them taking way longer than what we thought. Like these are type of scenarios which those are all like realistic possibilities, right? I mean, a lot of those guys are getting older. I think Utah is the only one up there that I'm like, they don't really have a ton of like big question marks because their core is there. They're probably they're going to have a good regular season record again. So
yeah. You think they need that just to get a top 4 seed?
I don't know. I mean, I think they might need it for at least one team. I think you might need
one more team gets some.
A Chris Paul or a Clay takes longer, and the Warriors. I'm just higher on the Warriors than I think some people are. But
so I think that they would have to be a top 4 seed, and I think obviously let's get the obvious out of the way. Luka Doncic would have to play like an MVP. He would have to just play.
Yeah, I'm not worried about him.
Not worried about him, but it has to be said, right? There can be no regression for Luka Doncic. There can be no like, all of a sudden he's shooting 29% from 3. No, that can't happen this season if they want to win the title. And the other thing with Luka, he's probably gonna have to come into camp and probably get to the end of the season in better shape, so he can play longer and have his wind at the end of games and all that. I think that's going to matter for this.
Yeah, I mean, that and something that'll help with that is I think at some point they would have to get the secondary creator, and whoever that is, if it's a top, a solidified top 3 player on the team, or if it's a veteran guy like Goran Dragic, I think they desperately need the secondary creator guy who can get a bucket, run the offense when Luka's off the floor. And if they win the title, then I think that will play a key role in that.
That they have at some point during the season acquired a player like that. You don't think, and I'm not being facetious here, you don't think Jalen Brunson can grow into that role during this season and maybe emerge as a guy that can do that for the team?
You're just gonna put me on the spot. No. I mean, I love Brunson. I just think Brunson is more of a come off the bench, like 6-man type of thing. And I don't, which, that person could be that, but I'm talking like a Dragic level. I'm talking, Dragic isn't on Kyle Lowry's level, but what we wanted Kyle Lowry to be, so what Terry Rozier is. But I think the biggest thing when you look at this Dallas team, it's like, all right, if they win the title, what would be the thing that would make them win the title? It's like I see the expectation there for Luka, secondary creator. Yes, we can have that conversation. It all evolves around it. That would mean Kristaps Porzingis had a very healthy and a very productive season.
Specifically on the defensive end, right? I was just listening to Zach Lowe and Chris Herring. That was their biggest question, right? Like lineups with Porzingis at the 5 had like 136 defensive rating, right? Like that is just absolutely brutal. That's like that would be the worst defense in the NBA by 20 points. That's an insanely bad defense. And that was last year. Anytime Porzingis was the 5 and didn't play with another big, not even with Maxey. So if we want him to play with Dorian at the 4, or Josh Green maybe at the 4, or somebody like that, then he's gonna have to get a lot better defensively and show up better defensively this season. The Mavericks will have to put that together for them to win a title. They just have to. The teams that win the title, you have to at least be competent on defense, unless you're the Brooklyn Nets. That's the only other option. The Mavericks aren't that. They have one guy, and the Nets have 3 like that.
Yeah, but and this obviously goes with Porzingis' defense, but he would have to be healthy. Like we would have to get a healthy Kristaps Porzingis. I don't know if you guys know this, but he's entering this season coming off of a healthy offseason, the first one that he's had in Dallas. So I'm looking forward to that. Like, what does he look like this season? Not just in the first few weeks, but what does he, look like in January? And that's the thing. And if you get a healthy Kristaps Porzingis all season long, if they went off and won the title, then it's because Porzingis was back to normal Porzingis.
So player-wise, Luka would have to remain basically the same. He doesn't have to change
MVP
too
candidate.
much.
Yeah,
MVP candidate. Porzingis would have to improve defensively for sure and stay healthy. You have to add a secondary creator at some point. You have to add somebody like that in order for them to win the title. Maybe a third guy on offense. Doesn't have to be like significantly better than Porzingis offensively, but has to add those traits. Can create his own shot, can create a shot for somebody else. It's the Dragic type. It's basically him and anybody on that level, basically, if they could add somebody like that. The other thing, I think Tim Hardaway Jr. would have to have like a Jason Terry type run. He would have to, shoot really well in the playoffs. He'd have to go on some kind of run where he just shoots incredibly well, kind of like what he did this last playoff run against the Clippers. He shot 40% from 3 in those 7 games, and some nights he was on, some nights he was off, but in the composite, he was really great, and he was way better in the first 3 games than he was the last 4, but I think he would have to have some games like that and shoot 40+% from 3 to get them there. They'd have to have he'd be the wild card on offense for them.
Yeah, I think the percentage would be the biggest thing for him, because if they went out and got a creator, which I think they would have to if they would want to win a title, then it's not about points per game for him. It's about the percentage. And so I would lump him into like Tim, Dorian, some of these other guys are saying they would need 2 to 3 40% 3-point shooters. And
along with
that's what I was gonna say.
Along with the defense, I think you'd have to see some pretty good synergy from Dorian Finney-Smith and Reggie Bullock defensively on the wings. Those guys would have to emerge as, okay, we feel really good about putting these 2 guys on the best guard, the best wing on the team, and feeling confident that those guys can at least hold their own. And then hopefully Porzingis improves defensively where he can clean up stuff if guys get past him, guys get past those 2 wings.
Yeah.
I think they would have to have some confidence in those 2 guys as defenders.
And can Tim impress? Can Tim get better defensively to where he's just, where he's not targeted, where he doesn't get torched in the playoffs, because they're going to need his shooting at times, but sometimes he is a defensive liability.
Do you look at any, before we move on to the next thing, do they care about matchups? Like, do they not want to play the Clippers again? Right? Is a matchup really gonna, hurt the Mavericks? Because if they do all those things we just said, I think they can kind of beat anybody in the West. I'm not really too scared about anybody in the
Well, if they win the title, then yes.
Then they did that.
Then they did that.
No, but to get to the title, like would they have to avoid somebody? Would they have to avoid, Lakers or Jazz or, somebody like that in order to just even get there?
Yeah, I think I would want to play the Lakers in the conference finals just because that's, round 3.
Save
after
them for then,
yeah, to where you're hoping, LeBron is, somewhat tired at some point in his life.
See, Suns didn't even have to do that last year. They didn't even have to play them. Like, they got them in the first round, took advantage, and man, yeah. So I don't think so, man. Like, I think the Mavs, if they did all those things we just said, and they're basically running on all cylinders, that the Jason Kidd thing is something we haven't talked about yet, but he would have to fit seamlessly and just be exactly what this team needs. He would just have to basically be on par with what Carlisle was doing, and then hopefully improve in some areas.
Yeah,
that's a tall order. That's maybe the biggest sticking point. I think all the other things we mentioned are pretty feasible. The Porzingis defense angle is maybe the biggest long shot. The secondary creator, they have to go add somebody, so that's a whole other thing. But Jason Kidd being a championship level coach is a far cry from where he was coaching with the Nets and coaching with the Bucks. We haven't seen it yet. We just haven't seen him at that level yet. Doesn't mean he can't get there, but that would have to happen, and he would have to coach his kids off before he the Mavericks can do that. So coming up, let's get into a little bit more about this. We'll talk maybe more about some matchups the Mavericks would face in the playoffs if they were going to win the title, and if they did win the title. And then let's talk about what would happen if they did. If they did win the title,
I have a million things on this.
What would it mean for this team? So let's get into that coming up. But before we do, I got to tell you about Built Bar. Built Bar is a protein bar that tastes like a candy bar. They're absolutely delicious. I say that every day, but they really are. Covered in 100% chocolate, and they have great flavors all the time. I just ate a grasshopper cookie bar earlier today, and it was like, man, it was like eating it for the first time. It was delicious. I love it. And they're coming out new flavors all the time. As we speak, there's a countdown on their site for mint marshmallow puffs. The puff bars are great. I ate a coconut puff one yesterday. They're great. I love them. It's got a little marshmallow in it, and it's the same spiel for all the other bars. Basically, they got your protein, low in sugar, low in calories, covered in 100% chocolate. They taste great. Go to built.com. Use the promo code LOCKED15, and you can get 15% off your order at builtbar.com. Also, want to tell you about betonline.ag. BetOnline is the fastest and easiest way to put down some money on sports. You can go bet on the Baltimore Ravens to win on a game-winning field goal. Crickets. You can go bet on the Dallas Cowboys, who looked a little bit better than I think a lot of people expected them to look. You can go bet on all that stuff. The Dallas Cowboys right now, they're playing at the Chargers at one of those weird like 3:30 games. 3-point underdog to the Chargers. That one's interesting. That one's interesting right there. That may be a wrong team favorite. The over-under for that game is 55 points, which is a lot of points, but both these teams are going to sling it and put some points up. Your Ravens, Isaac, are playing the Chiefs on Sunday Night Football. The Ravens are only a 3.5-point underdog.
Oh, that's about to go up.
I was going to say, that doesn't seem like high enough. So if you want to get in on the action, go use the promo code LOCKEDON. Get a 100% welcome bonus to your first deposit. Bet online, your online sportsbook experts. All right, Isaac Harris. Let's get into, we've been talking about what if the Dallas Mavericks won the 2021-22 NBA title. We talked about what would have to happen, all those things that we mentioned before the Mavericks would have to do to get there and to win. Now, what if they did it? What would it mean for this team?
Oh man, okay, I have multiple angles to take this. Let's just start with the franchise. So first off, if the Mavericks won the title this year, they would be the 12th team in the league to have 2 or more titles.
That's insane. There's 19 teams right now that haven't won 2 titles.
Yeah, that's 19 teams.
That's a lot. That's over half.
Then, if you just do this century, they would be the 7th team to do it. Celtics, Lakers, Spurs, Pistons, Heat, and Bucks to have won a title. And they would have won 2 of those. So
how many teams this century have won 2 titles? It's Lakers, it's Warriors, it's Heat, Spurs.
Yeah.
That's it, right?
Yeah.
And then the Mavericks would if they won this.
Yeah, because Pistons won 1, Celtics won 1.
1, yeah, 2008, that was it.
Bucks won 1.
Bucks won 1.
Raptors won 1.
Raptors won 1.
You
want to hear us list more things?
Let's list more things. Okay. The Nico Jason Kidd hires. How would Cuban be viewed? Would people be like, holy crap, does he get the credit for that? Of he went out of the box to hire Nico Harrison. How would Nico be viewed? How would the Nico Harrison hire be viewed across the league if year 1 Nico Harrison wins a title? And it's like, well, dang, is that like the new thing? Like, is that are teams across the league saying if Nico, what are you doing right now?
This is what Mark Cuban would feel like.
Vindication.
That's what he would feel. He would feel vindication, right? Like
you just spent like 30 seconds really into that.
It's a Brooklyn Nine-Nine drop. I love Brooklyn Nine-Nine. It's one of my favorite shows ever. Yeah. Vindication is what Mark Cuban would feel. The Cuban or the Jason Kidd hire has been maligned by people like myself and others, and been everyone has been concerned about it. Like I feel like every Mavs fan and every person around the Mavs is like, I'm not sure about this. They've at least been like concerned about it, but Cuban would feel total vindication for those 2 hires for sure. He did the right thing, got the right guys, put the 2 guys in position that would win, and that would be, incredible for Cuban. Cuban to win 2 titles with 2 different regimes, basically. Insane.
Yeah. So Jason Kidd, how would it change his reputation? How would he be viewed in Dallas? And I obviously didn't have time for the research on this. How many players have won a title for a city and a franchise as a player and a coach?
Wow. Bill Russell's the first one that comes to mind.
Yeah. Outside of that.
Yeah, Bill Russell kind of did it while he was playing, but
yeah. So okay, let's just go the player route. Luka Doncic. If he wins a title in his 4th season, how are you basketball referencing this right now?
What?
Are you? How
I'm looking up if anybody player and coach.
Oh, okay. If Luka Doncic won a title in his 4th season, you would assume that he made another All-Star game, right? And you would assume that he made another All-NBA team. Let's just for the fun of it, said first team All-NBA again. Okay, Luka in his first 4 seasons would have a title, probably a Finals MVP, 3-time All-Star, 3-time All-NBA first team. He would be on pace to be the greatest player of all time. I'm just saying, like, who do you want to? You just want to do MJ and LeBron? Like, just those accomplishments in the first 4 seasons would be something we've never seen before. how does it affect his future in Dallas? Does Luka look at it and say, man, this is the beginning of a dynasty because I'm so young, we can do this? Or does he look at it and say, hey, I got my chip in Dallas, then I'm just going to have fun in a bigger city later on?
Got his chips with the dip. LeBron won his first title, age 27. It was his, it was like pretty deep in his career. Like, what was it? Like his 8th or 9th year or something like that.
Jordan won his 7th season.
Yeah, he was 27. So that's like, you're just way above the time. Obviously, Kobe was earlier. He had Shaq.
Yeah. And Magic, Magic won it in his rookie season. LeBron went to the finals, when he got mopped in the finals, his 4th season. But, so that was his 4th season. Okay, let's keep on going just for time.
If the Mavericks go to the finals and lose, like they just get destroyed, will people start looking at that 2000, like they get destroyed by the Nets, right? Mm-hmm. People will start looking at that 2007, like Cavs team, right? Like just.
Well, yeah. Well, it depends on, like, if he took a Mavericks team that didn't even have KP out there, let's say KP was hurt, or
KP plays the same he played against the Clippers and the Mavs make the finals. Yeah. All of a sudden, it's like, man, like you just put up like Zadrunas Ilgauskas and Kristaps Porzingis numbers side by side.
Okay, that's getting sad now. Okay, let's just look at KP. If they win the title, how's KP viewed?
How are you sad at my hypothetical where the Mavs make the finals?
I say it's sad that you're comparing Ilgauskas and
yeah, but in that hypothetical, the Mavs made the finals.
If they win the finals, then that means he's back fully healthy. Do the Mavericks really try to sell high? Do they say now's the time?
He becomes immortal, right?
Does he? Like,
yeah, because we just talked about earlier. We were doing a fantasy draft of Mavericks from 2000 and on, and we're like, oh dang. Is Porzingis the best offensive center the Mavericks have ever had? And it's definitely true. And then all of a sudden he wins a title, so that he becomes maybe the best center the Mavericks have ever had because the offensive end. And then you're like,
okay, they win the title. Porzingis is healthy and everything.
Yeah,
he has the best run you can imagine.
Yeah,
and then Brad Beal says, "I'm coming to Dallas, and you can get Brad Beal for Kristaps Porzingis."
But you just proved that Kristaps Porzingis is good enough of a center to win a title in this scenario.
True, but are you going to bank on the long-term health? And what's easier to win alongside Luka, another wing or the big? Even though you just did it, I'm
preemptively taking a drink. But that means that Porzingis went through a full season where he was. He
would have his second off.
He went through it, and he'll go through a second off season where he's fully healthy.
Okay,
and maybe we're trending upwards with the injury stuff, and maybe they figure out a way to keep him upright and healthy.
This is my last angle. You could do other angles on this, but zoom all the way out. Would this be a Dallas Mavericks city? They would have They would have 2 titles in the city of Dallas. The last time the Cowboys won a Super Bowl is 1996. Most of you guys weren't even alive. 20? You'd be 26 years that the Cowboys have won a Super Bowl.
Yeah.
Yes. Shout out to all the Cowboys fans. The Dallas Stars won a Stanley Cup in 1999. Long time. Texas Rangers. Let me look. Okay. That was a quick look. Nothing. So my point is, people who are in their 20s, or teens or anything, the only titles that they're going to remember in the city of Dallas will be 2 Dallas Maverick titles if they won it next year. Will it be a Maverick city? I'm ready. Luka Doncic, he's the best player in Dallas. He's better than any Dallas athlete right now. I mean,
there's just no way because the Cowboys have such a stranglehold on the city, right?
I'm trying to have fun with it.
I know, but and Mavs fans would, come out of the woodwork for sure and all of a sudden be, a big presence and we would see the entire MFFL nation, whatever. But yeah,
two parades in the city. It's like, man, tell me the last time the Cowboys had a parade in the city. I think we were listening to it on cassette tapes.
There have been children that have been born, grown up, and graduated college and got a real ass job before the Cowboys won.
There are sons out there looking at their father saying, "Dad, have you ever seen a Cowboys Super Bowl win?" No, son.
There are entire generations of people. Sorry, we're just destroying all the
But Cowboys. I do remember when Dirk won in 2011 and Luka won it last year. These are exciting times for the Dallas Mavericks.
Can I say one more angle on this?
Yes, please.
You and I would have the greatest time of our life if the Mavs won the title, and we're hosting this podcast every single day on YouTube. We'd be doing like live shows in Victory Plaza. We'd just be having the best time of our life through
We'd
this
have to
run.
take a vacation.
What if they played like, I don't know, where could they play that we would be able to travel? And like,
I don't even know.
What Eastern Conference would we be able to go to, like the finals or a playoff series or something?
We'd have to go to Brooklyn.
Ugh. Milwaukee, Philadelphia, Miami.
Okay, real quick at the end here.
What if they play Miami again?
That'd be hilarious. What would be the most fun path to winning a title for them?
Ooh.
Like if you could guarantee them winning every single series.
Because the Mavs path to the title in 2011 was pretty dang close to being the best path you can hope for, right? That Blazers team swept the Lakers, and then you go through, that young Thunder team, and then through LeBron and the Heat, you get the Heat revenge for the Mavericks.
Okay, I got it for you.
You destroy the Clippers in the first round.
I was gonna say Warriors in the first round to say screw you, we believe Warriors.
Oh, okay, yeah, some vengeance for that.
Clippers second round.
Yeah, you just wipe the floor with them, like
wipe them out. Yeah. Lakers third round.
Okay, yeah, I'm in.
And then you take down the super team again.
And Brooklyn Nets. Yeah, that's a great run right there.
Does that counter Dirk's run?
That's the thing I'm uncomfortable with, because then all of a sudden people would start having the conversation, who's the greatest Maverick of all time? Luka has done all these things and just became a finals
guys,
MVP.
Luka's not the best Maverick of all time. We got
22.
years.
He wins the finals at the age of 22.
I'm congrats. That's amazing. But Dirk will hold that title for some years.
The conversation would be had. All right, that was fun. We enjoy the hypothetical sometime. We want to have some fun with it. And that's what would have to happen for the Mavericks to win the title. What would happen if they did? Let us know in the comments. How would you respond if the Mavericks won the title in 2021-22? You'd probably have to wipe some tweets. I think all of us would have to wipe some tweets if the Mavericks won the title. There you go. Guys, we will be back tomorrow. Thanks so much for listening to Locked On Mavs.
Peace out.
Boom.